Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's Lunch and Learn. I'm Lauren Smith with the International Franchise Association, and we have a great 30 minutes lined up for you. Before we begin, I would like to remind everyone that we are recording today's webinar and will make it available later this evening on community.franchise.org. If you have any questions for today's speakers, please add them to the chat box and they will be addressed toward the end. Today's topic is solving franchise business pain points with technology, and it is brought to us by Hughes. Here to provide today's discussion is Carl Udler, Senior Director of Marketing at Hughes, and Bennett Maxwell, Chairman and Founder of Dirty Dough. Thank you all for joining us today, and thank you to Hughes for sponsoring today's Lunch and Learn. Carl, it was great seeing you at IFA. I will go ahead and turn things over to you.
Good. Thank you, Lauren. Good afternoon, everyone. What a pleasure to be here. The last 4 or 5 weeks have been very busy with the IFA conference, the Franchise Unconference, and then last week's multi-unit franchise conference out in Las Vegas. So it's great to be here. I have some stories to share, some anecdotes, and some good information that I'm sure you'll find useful. Again, my name is Carl Udler. I'm with Hughes. Hughes has been around for over 52 years. I've been with the company for almost 24. So that tells you the type of company that it is. We worked with all sorts of brands, particularly those that are franchise model in the franchise industry, and we'll talk about that much later. But today I'm pleased to be joined, and we're all glad that Bennett Maxwell is here, the chairman and founder of Dirty Dough. Bennett, welcome. Can you tell us a little bit about your company?
Yeah, Dirty Dough, we're a large gourmet cookie franchise, still fairly new. We franchised in December of 21, and it's been a little bit crazy since then. We've sold just north of 450 franchises, 60 some odd units are open right now. And we also do mobile franchises. We have about 13 of those going. So trying to figure it out on a day-to-day basis.
You're a busy guy, Bennett, and I know that you go at 100 miles an hour.
Yes.
Great. Well, thanks for joining us. Today, Bennett and I are going to have a conversation about his business, about technology, some of the challenges, particularly for a franchise that's growing as fast as Bennett is, and then some of the technologies that have been used to date and those that are poised for growth, both in the front of the house, the back of the house, and just in regular operations. We'll also talk about some of the decision processes that were used. And then at the end, we'll talk about how Hughes and Dirty Dough have worked together to solve some business challenges, engage their customers, and engage their employees. Good. So with that as a backdrop, let's begin. Tell us a little bit, if you can, Bennett, about when you got started, how the back of house, the systems, all the infrastructure got set up, what your thought process was, and how you got to the point where you are today, please.
Yeah, right from the get-go, the goal is definitely to franchise and to move quick. We do a centralized production model. So the more units that we open, the greater economies of scale that we get on our purchasing power. We make all of the cookies in a centralized location and then ship them out to be baked fresh on site. So right from the get-go, again, it was as we're making any decisions on solutions to the various problems that we have, it was what can work at 500 stores at 1,000 stores. So it's kind of the decision making yeah, I get process and picking out our tech needs.
One of the benefits of starting when you did is a lot of the applications that you needed were already available versus being a 20 or 30 or 50-year-old franchise that has some legacy systems that need to be worked with or massaged or APIs. So that's absolutely a benefit coming up. How do your back-end systems, what type of, on the screen here, we have some suggested topics, hiring tools, make versus buy, working with employees, and how they communicate with the company?
Yeah, right from the get-go, as we were filing our franchise documents, we started building out our admin portal. So it's a custom portal that franchisees can get in to have training, communication. We built out a super detailed checklist. Dirty Dough, we've advertise ourselves as a very simple franchise model. You could operate out of 600 square feet, put a cookie in the oven, pretty simple because, you know, the quality control primarily is done at a corporate level. A lot of that training's on there. And then again, that build out checklist, I think we're at like 103 steps on just really trying to dummy proof every single process, step by step, exactly when it needs to happen in relationship to your grand opening. We built in a help desk. So there's communication between franchisees and the different departments of corporate. We do weekly brand update emails that get sent out, but then they're also stored on that admin portal. A lot of the training is on there as well. We've also integrated purchasing. So franchisees, if they're buying things through corporate, such as uniforms, that can be done right there on the admin portal. We've integrated it with Toast so we can pull any data that we need. And that's also where we're collecting the weekly royalties as well as the brand building fee. So that's been pretty helpful as far as help wanted and hiring tools. Haven't done a ton with that to date. Luckily, you know, we can operate our stores with 1 or 2 employees and we haven't had many difficulties hiring, but we have, upon request of the franchisees, just added it to our website, you know, a now hiring, and then they fill out the application and we send that out to the franchisees. And I know that we've had several dozen hires just from adding that pretty simple feature. And as far as employee experience goes, a lot of that is done through our HR slash payroll provider. So they can get in there, you know, see pay stubs, tax forms, employee handbooks, things like that. So again, just trying to consolidate everything to make it as clean and simple for both our franchisees and employees as possible.
That's fantastic. The connectivity and the communication that these applications you mentioned provide really give a good franchise experience and a good end employee experience as well. Thank you for that. Let's move on to operations. When I was at IFA a couple weeks ago, I had the fortunate privilege of moderating a couple roundtables, particularly on KPIs and how you use KPIs to run your business with the different metrics, et cetera. Can you talk about how KPIs in your business, where you started, how you identified what those were, how to measure, and then how do you use that to generate either more revenue or to help the franchisees improve?
Yeah, the KPIs, you know, number one is net sales. Number two, or I should say after that, there's not really much of an order, but catering, loyalty percentage applied. So how many people are using our app and our loyalty program, wait times, and labor. And then the net sales, there's a few kind of sub categories. The biggest one being third-party sales, so sales through DoorDash, Uber Eats, and all of that. Those were developed over time. You know, net sales was the obvious one, and then the rest of them, one in particular, one of our first franchisees that opened, they had a killer month. They did twice as many sales as what we thought that they would do, and their labor was great. The second month, you know, they have that natural dip. The honeymoon stages from the grand opening kind of wear off. And they had that dip, but they didn't change their labor at all. So the second month went by, and then 2 weeks after that went by, and then they got the reporting back from their accountant, and their labor was out of control because they didn't adjust it. So we're like, okay, not only do we need to add labor, but it needs to be front and center in our faces and their faces. So we started doing reports, and we color coded them all because we've set metrics on what's acceptable, what's not, for those 5 KPIs. And that gets sent to me. I mean, Carl, when you asked me what I was doing right before the meeting, that's what I was reviewing, emails and then reviewing how many sales. And it's nice because I could just go through and look at how many, you know, are in green versus red if they're on track to what we want to do. And then we get those. I mean, every day the report goes out, and then it's also giving a week-to-date report. And then at the end of the week, we'll have a weekly report, and then we do monthly and quarterly. And again, it's all set up on those metrics. And then from those, we create a franchisee, what we call the franchisee scorecard, that our regional directors of operations can go over with the franchisees, at least on a monthly basis, on here's where you're at and here's where you're going. And it'll actually will break it down into like, this is how many more cookies you need to be selling per day or per hour to get back on track.
highly metric. How do the franchisees get access to that?
It's all in the reporting. They can have access. So, uh, particularly speaking to that scorecard that gets sent to them from the our what we reference as an RDO, um, the regional director of operations, and then they schedule a call to go over it. Now, frankly, not all franchisees care to jump on a call to go over it. Which it is what it is. But we're sending that out to regardless, so it's front and center. And then again, kind of back to the labor, that's also front and center. We don't want people to close out the month and then wait 2 more weeks for their bookkeeping company or service, or whatever, to get back to them and say, hey, you were way out of whack. And that's why on a day-to-day basis, that is getting reported. And then again, color coded, so it's very quick. Are you green, red, or yellow?
That's great. So they're able to check all the metrics where they are. Color coding is important because I'd imagine, Bennett, you don't even look at the green ones. You just scan right down to those that are in red and see how you can help in fixing those. What about inventory? You and I talked beforehand, and at the very start, it was checking your freezer on a routine basis. How has that progressed, and how have you used technology or applications and the systems in your store to assist with that?
Yeah, there's a lot of learning that I've done and that I'm still doing. Things that you think people would know how to do, such as, you need to keep inventory, you need to know what you're buying, you need to know what your waste is. Um, but until there's a tool that's simple and easy to be used and that needs to be reported, and then you're holding them accountable for that, a lot of people simply don't do it. So that was one thing that we built, and we require every Sunday you go through inventory, because again, the other thing that you have to do with your franchisees is review financials and P&Ls. But if you're getting a P&L and it doesn't have a starting inventory or ending inventory, then it just matters, did you over order that month or did you under order? So it just wasn't accurate at all. So we were able to create that with them. One thing that we're working on right now that it's not quite set up, but we sell our cookie pucks to Sysco, and then the franchisees are buying them from Sysco. So we're working on an integration to determine how many cookies they're selling versus what they're buying from Sysco. So we can monitor, is there perhaps there's theft from employees, monitoring waste, making sure the P&Ls are accurate. And not that I guess this is a huge concern, but to monitor as well, making sure franchisees aren't, going to different types of events, selling cookies, collecting cash, and, trying to bypass royalties.
Interesting. I'm getting hungry thinking about a cookie and whether I could just reach over and get one now to have during our conversation. It's interesting that you measure the cookies sold versus those that are in inventory, and then back to you and Sysco with the cost of goods sold. Very important in making different decisions. Let's move, if we can, from the back of the house to operations now to the front of the house. And in the front of the house, that's where you interact with your customers. That's where you have all the decorating that goes on the fun cookies, and engaging with customers on social media, et cetera. Can you talk about, I know you started with email, sending emails out to your customers and prospects, but can you talk a little bit about that evolution, please?
Yeah. We do weekly flavor drops. So that gives you an excuse to keep in contact with your customers, to keep them updated, keep them excited, and just stay front of mind. So yeah, like you said, first was just emails, and then when we built our app, we started collecting phone numbers, and then we started doing SMS. And then also in the app, we send out notifications, push notifications. So whether it's just, hey, this is the weekly rotation, or hey, here's a happy hour sell, different promotions. Those are the three ways that we are reaching out and staying kind of front of mind with customers.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with, we added birthdays on our loyalty. So same thing, you get a free cookie on your birthday, just another excuse to keep in contact with them, while also offering, a great product, free cookie on your birthday. Who doesn't want that?
You mentioned the app that you use that's connected to the store and gets all your messaging, and the birthday cookie. I might have to have several birthdays this year. how is that tied in with the store to have that consistent experience from the app, from marketing anywhere to the app, and then the experience in the store?
Yeah, we've really leveraged it. I mean, in the store, a well-trained store of an employee, they're asking customers to download the app. They all have a QR code sitting right by the counter. Download the app for a free cookie because we'll give them a free cookie when they sign up. So if you want some free cookies, say your birthday's tomorrow, and then download the app. There you go. There's 2 free cookies. Go to Any Dirty Dough, but just don't tell them I told you that. Um, um, the app download is also, it's not on our 5 KPI list, but it is something that is reported on our weekly, monthly, and quarterly, how many apps downloads we get. And we typically hover around, 2,000 app downloads a week, unless we're doing some sort of push. And then we can also, I mean, again, back to the simplicity, as a franchise owner, if I'm not in the store every day, I want to know what my employees are doing and if they're following the script, so I can look at how many app downloads are happening based on which employee is working each shift. You can look at, average order value and drink sales per employee. So you can see which employees need help either following the script or being friendlier, giving a better smile, anything like that. So putting a little bit more data in the franchisee's hands in order to better manage and stay engaged with their employees.
This is a perfect example, Bennett, of where store connectivity is uber important for your customers to be able to use their app in the store, for the store to be able to process orders, credit cards, all sorts of transactions, and then getting the information back to corporate. That's fantastic. What about from an employee experience?
Employee experience, a lot of that is, most of that's determined by the franchisee. And my nature is to get in there and like, let's do all of these different things. And then people that are much smarter than me are saying, no, you want, as a franchisor, you're the franchisor. Franchisees' employees are their employees. So, keep an arm lengths distance. But we do make, recommendations, obviously, on hiring scripts to follow, things like that, payroll providers. And if it integrates with the point of sale system, which who we recommend does, and pretty much everybody is using that, that's how you can get that real-time labor report as a percentage as well. So not just, here's what your labor dollars were, but as a percentage of sales broken up, per shift or however you want it broken up. So I guess picking the right software for us was pretty key. As far as the point of sale software goes, that has these added integrations.
I know you and I have talked about the IT integration of all of this and your robust IT shop. And I know we've worked with them and we've talked about a few other things outside of what we're doing with you. But that's all very important. And that leads us into talking about technology. What do your stores do for primary connectivity, for backup? How is cybersecurity in place? So you make sure that you're protected. What are you doing today, and what are some of the paths you're looking to go down or that you're exploring?
Yeah, the sensitive customer information that we potentially have access to is definitely the credit card data. So anybody purchasing in store, swiping a credit card, that is going through our point of sale system, which we've chosen a very well-known point of sale system, and they're handling the cybersecurity portion of that. From our admin portal, there's a ton of sensitive information, but it's password protected. Not anybody can jump on. As far as the purchasing goes, when they're buying or we're auto deducting their royalties and all that, that's all done through Stripe. So another big payment platform that we're lucky enough that they're dealing with a lot of that headache.
From a franchisor standpoint, Bennett, I was at one of the 3 franchise shows I was at and attended in the last month. I was speaking to a franchisor, and they had a corporate invoice received to their accounts payable inbox. And it looked like it was from a known vendor. everything looked good. The dollar amount was in the right order of magnitude, and there was wiring instructions in there. And as they just peeled the onion back just a little bit and took off some of the veneers that were there, they were able to see that the email address was actually, when they selected it, an unknown email address. And they're able to identify that it was fraudulent and not pay it. So that amount of money is significant, and it's something that having a proper cybersecurity in place to protect yourself and your franchisees is key.
Absolutely. And talking about, the internet and things in store, that's another thing that I guess maybe we're still looking for solutions, some solutions for that. Right now, it's up to the franchisees to be able to pick that. But for us to standardize and either do a required internet service that has some built-in cybersecurity would be a great option. If nothing else, at least a preferred vendor rather than kind of leaving them to pick that for themselves. Because I think it was just yesterday or Sunday, I got the pay XYZ, log into your Netflix account or UPS. I forgot what it was, but you read the email and it's like Netflix.io.
All sorts of
23Z, and you're
numbers.
just
Yeah.
like, yeah, that's BS. But there's a ton of that out there.
I even spoke with another franchisor that no longer emails wiring instructions for the initial franchise fees from their franchisees, because emails are being hacked. There are phishing attacks, and the routing number and account number can easily get swapped out for a different one, and the money goes elsewhere. So that's all no longer done via email. Bennett, we've worked together. We have our digital signage, digital menu boards up in your store. Can you talk to us a little bit about how we came to know each other, where we met, and how this solution came about?
Yeah, it was right when I was probably finding out the difference between a franchisee and a franchisor, which is about 3 years ago. The first franchise conference I attended was, it was 3 years ago in San Diego. We had one store at that point, and again, we weren't a franchise. It was in Tempe, Arizona, and it was a pain in the butt because it was always, always, always going down. And me being the owner, but living in San Diego and the stores in Arizona, and I would visit it typically only once a month, and I'd get there and just like, why the freak can we not get this stupid menu screen to just stay on? And it was a USB drive, and we had a little mouse that you had to go select the file from the computer. It was a nightmare. So again, going off of, we are wanting to make this franchise model as simple as possible for the franchisees. A big part of that is the tech. And there's two things that, or really three things that every week need to be updated if you're updating your cookies. You have your point of sale system, your decorating station, and then the menu board. So Hughes is the decorating station and the menu board. It's automatic for a franchisee. So we make the update once, we get to push it out, and every Friday morning, store owners, employees, they don't need to do anything. They just show up and it's done. Now, if they have a leftover cookie or they needed something a little bit more, I guess, customizable, whether it's the decorating station or the menu board, then they can fill out a form, and then we can also do that. So it gives us the ability to mass push out an update and standardize it while giving us the flexibility to still, make those unique changes one by one. And then now we finally know we don't have to go visit stores or check cameras to see if the menu boards are working or they're not working. There's notifications, and I don't think I've gotten any of those notifications because they work, which is awesome.
It is a managed service, and that's one thing that we do. We have found that in the digital media, signage, menu board, kiosk world, that the worst thing you can have, the worst customer experience, is having a blank screen. Or there's actually something worse, and that's the little Windows logo bouncing all over the screen, doing its little pattern.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know that, before this was implemented, we talked about some of the challenges. One person or one group being able to go into a portal very easily make the changes, push them out, and ensure that everyone has them all at the time that they need them.
Also have we're pushing and trying to find more drive-throughs as well. So that's another thing that I think we only have 3 drive-throughs right now, but we have another handful under construction. So I'm excited for that solution because same thing, those need to be updated, on corporate's end, so customers through the drive-through. So anyways, I'm excited to continue to roll out more drive-throughs because I think that could be a really integral part in our business.
So it's not just the franchisee experience and customer experience, it's also the brand experience and making that easier. Fantastic. Thank you. If I may, here at the end and in the interest of time, let me talk just a little bit about Hughes. We are a managed service provider. I mentioned early on, we've been around for 52 plus years. We provide a few solutions that you see on your screen here. Over on the WAN side, that's all the connectivity and security coming into the store. It's the primary connection, the backup connection, and of course, the cybersecurity, the managed security. And then on the WAN side, within the store, we do digital signage that we talked about during our time here, also VoIP, Wi-Fi, and managed switching. Here's a sampling of some of our customers. You may be familiar with one, many, or all of these, and I'd be happy offline to talk about the different implementations that we do at each. So with that said, Lauren, I'm going to punt it back to you for questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We had a couple questions come through. Can you talk a little bit more about how you're seeing cybersecurity affect franchises?
Sure. So we're seeing it at several levels. The first is at the franchisor level. I gave those stories a few moments ago where you have fraudulent email coming in, you have phishing, you have ransomware, and there are some very nice and easy to implement cybersecurity solutions that can look at your network, take a very small sliver of it, do the analysis, use AI for predictability about what could happen next, and propagate that out to the entire network. There's also the PCI compliance. Bennett mentioned that he does POS, credit card transactions, through their provider. With the new PCI 4.0, not only does the normal compliance need to be there, but active scanning of the entire network is something that's important to fulfill the requirements that PCI requires.
Great, thank you. And then the next one, can you talk a little bit more about what kind of impact phishing and ransomware has?
You see it frequently in the newspaper. We all know the big names that we've heard of ransomware attacks. And by the time a company experiences a ransomware attack, the fraudsters with the fraudulent software have likely already been on your network for 6 to 8 months. So it's an effort to play catch up. And the whole cybersecurity industry is very segmented. You have the groups over here and their companies with help centers that will reach out and capture credit card numbers. Then they'll sell them to the next group. The next group will go out and do whatever their part is. And then they'll sell that break-in information to the next group. The next group, or a couple down, will be the ones that actually lock up your systems. And they make it very easy for you to pay the ransom. They have help desks that are there to help you. They want to make sure you have a good customer experience and are able to pay the ransom in an enjoyable way. So there's a lot out there to be aware of.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. So it looks like those are all the questions we have. If anybody has any questions that maybe they want to ask you offline, Carl, where can they find you?
So my contact information is here on the screen. I'm very active on LinkedIn for those that know me. My email address is there, along with a QR code that goes directly to my LinkedIn account. Would love to connect and continue the conversation with any of you that have further questions or want to learn more. Let me also take this opportunity. Bennett, thank you very much. Really appreciate the partnership that we have and the work that we do together. And I look forward always to your LinkedIn posts whether it's professional about franchisees or even weightlifting in the gym. So thank you.
Thanks for having me, Carl. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Carl and Bennett. This was excellent content and excellent feedback from all of you. We really do appreciate it. Again, this webinar was recorded and along with the presentation deck will appear on our website early this evening. You'll be able to find that at community.franchise.org. Thank you very much again to Carl, Bennett, and the rest of the Hughes team. And again, thank you to everyone for tuning in. Have a great rest of your day. Stay safe and healthy. Bye.